Buonasera e benvenuto al WRFG, signore e signori, El Jazz Forum. Good evening and welcome, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, to Jazz Forum.
Life is too short for ordinary music. Jazz on WRFG, Atlanta.
This is Paul Bertram Williams, and this is our WRFG Monday Night Jazz with a new name, the best of all possible worlds. I was trying to put together my program this evening, and then I was thinking, I wasn't sure what I was going to play, but I wanted to hit a couple of folks here like Jackie McLean. He passed away here on the 31st, as a matter of fact. Sometimes on the program, we like to celebrate the jazz birthdays, if you will. So I thought to myself, well, we're not celebrating his birthday, but we can also celebrate the fact that he passed on as, the 31st of March. So again, Jackie McLean had a good chance to spend some time with his brother. He was a very interesting cat. This is, may not be aware, Renee McLean, saxophonist. This is his father. He's an excellent saxophonist, Renee McLean. So we're going to put that in the bag. And then I tried to play what I call a lot of unsung heroes. It's just like TV One or BET has the unsung. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times these are people you're familiar with, but they don't really get maybe all the accolades that they could have gotten or should have gotten. Or maybe they did get some accolades, but somehow tragedy struck or whatever. Their careers may have been cut short. So this is the same thing here. Phineas Newborn was a great pianist. Not a lot of people play Phineas. I say Phineas. Not many people play Phineas Newborn. So he's going to be one of my unsung heroes for the day. I've got a couple of them in here. Like I said, I just try to play those folks that typically, again, they're kind of like musicians. The musicians know about them, but a lot of people may or may not know about them, or may not know that much about them. And so I've got a couple of choice pieces here. I'm going to play, of course, I always play some Coltrane. John Coltrane was my main man. I'm definitely a Coltrane fanatic. In fact, those albums at the top right there, that's all Coltrane right there. I also thought this evening I'd probably feature a little bit of some piano music, some pianists. I was thinking that might be my best option here is to do some pianists tonight. And I'm one of these people, the guy who comes on before me, he always laughs, because I ain't got but 2 hours. I get quite a few pieces on it. Sometimes I get like 16, 17, 20 selections on in 2 hours, especially if I don't do too much talking. Sometimes I have to remind myself. In fact, I have a disc that I use in West Montgomery, which is background music whenever the CD player is working properly. This right here, West Montgomery and Tommy Flanagan. I use this sort of as background music. And the selection I use is about 5 minutes long. So when it starts to go out, I know that I've been talking too long, you see. It's kind of like a warning sign. It's time to shut up and get back to the music. And I always try to throw in some older stuff. Most of the guys play a lot of bebop, what they refer to as bebop music, which is 50s, early 60s stuff. They also play what they refer to as hard bop, which was the next evolution of the music. Featured a lot more complicated heads or lines, like melodies and stuff like that. And but I like to try to show the universality of the music. And sometimes I even do like operetta pieces, or I might even throw a Pavarotti in there somewhere. just to be able to show, like, if the mix, depends on how you mix it, you can make that music really, show that there is a universality thing to it. And then reality, a lot of that stuff fits very well. It just doesn't have to be all what we call straight ahead jazz. And at WRFG, we try to do straight ahead jazz. We do mostly what we call classical jazz, as opposed to CLK.
Well, I know your body's aching, and I know your dreams are shaking too. Now I know your life has been caking, that there is nobody else that I knew. Well, I know your body's aching, and I know your chains are shaking too. Yeah, I know your beats are waiting too. The world is half as much like you. And I know your chains are shaking too. Yeah, I know your.
Listening to jazz, this is good soul. My name is Paul Bertram Williams. Of course, we'll be here up until midnight. We like to call this particular Monday segment phases. And I'm going to enjoy bringing you some great jazz. So keep it down to, as they say, don't touch that time. My first exposure to jazz was actually, I'm pretty sure, was through John Coltrane. Now, I had heard stuff like Nat King Cole. My mother played Frank Sinatra. That's a style of jazz. It's unfortunately a style that's been not, that it's a beautiful style. Frank had a beautiful phrasing. And again, that's what jazz to some extent is about. That's kind of like the essence of it, is the phrasing. And much of it is very similar to like vocalists in a way. I mean, most saxophonists typically will listen to vocalists to get that phrasing, And Billie Holiday, these kind of folks, Train used to listen a lot to Billie Holiday. But my father was a policeman, drug investigator. But on Sundays, he would take us to this club called the Bon Time for a sandwich or something. They made little sandwiches and stuff. And we used to always have Squirt. Squirt is like a drink chaser, but it's actually like sort of a grapefruity taste and drink. I still see it around here, but we used to always have these Squirts. Anyways, the band that was playing at the time, which my father later told me it was John Coltrane, the thing that stood out to me about it was that, one, the guys were playing a lot of music. It was kind of confusing. So they were just playing a lot of music. It was loud. The drummer, I remember, was like really loud. And it was hard to hear the music. But I was fascinated by the fact that these guys are like really playing, man. So like they're sweating and, they're working. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there looking at these guys. Anyways, Train had had three horns with him, as I recall. And he had a soprano and he had two sax tenors, I think. Anyways, he broke one of his, what they call pedal keys, these keys on the side. It's like E, F, and G, E, F, and D, rather. He broke one of the keys. He was like right in the middle of a solo, man. So he like calmly sort of puts it down. The piano guy kind of fills in, and he calmly puts the horn down, just calmly picks up the other horn. And it's like, I remember this distinctly that it's like he started back into the solo exactly where he left off when he broke the key. That was what struck my mind about it. And I must have been maybe 10, 11, something like that. And I just remember being sort of fascinated by it. And then when I got a little bit older, a couple of years later, I was always a big kid for my age, so I used to get out and I could get in the clubs. In fact, oftentimes my father would be on some kind of drug deal, and he would be in disguise, and he would be in these clubs, and he would see me in the clubs, but it's like he couldn't really say nothing to me. And he would be gone for several weeks. Sometimes you might not see him for 2 or 3 weeks. So by the time he saw me, I saw him again, and it was kind of like over, but he might say, man, I saw you in that club, man. I don't want to see you in them clubs no more, you know. But where I grew up at, we had several clubs. We had the Bon Time, which is up the street. I mean, everybody used to play there. And then we had a place called Gigi's, the Greasy Spoon. I saw Jimi Hendrix back in the B.B. King at Gigi's. And so that was sort of my first exposure to it. I would say when I got into high school, when I was maybe 16, something like that, I started buying records. And again, I was a big Coltrane person. I think I heard My Favorite Things. I really liked My Favorite Things. And so there used to be a record store, Doris Records, around the corner from me. I can't remember his name now. That was his sister or his wife's name. But the guy who owned the store, I used to, in fact, some of the albums right there, I used to go in there and pick through all the albums. I'd be buying all this old Prestige. This is Train back in the 50s, in the early days. And, you know, Train wasn't around a long time on the professional level. He was only around about 12 years, but he really made a lot of progress. But I'm saying, you go back, they say, well, Train was young, just like when he was with Miles, or when he was on Prestige label. But you play that Train, I'm telling you, you put some Train on, man, with a nice lady and some wine. Jeez, I mean, you know, Train could play them ballads, man. I laugh all the time and tell people, you listen to Miles Davis's records with Train within that band, you never heard Train on ballads. You know, Miles wouldn't let him play on the ballads because Train could blow the ballads, man. And anyway, just so emotional and stuff like that. But anyway, that was when I really got exposed to it. I just remember I used to always go to Doris. I used to call him Doris, but I forget his name now. But he would order records for me, and I used to spend hours down there at Doris Records, flipping through the records, listening to the records. And so that kind of exposed me to the music. And then, like I say, I think I made another jump in terms of my appreciation for the music when I went to college. And I was pretty young. I had just turned 17, something like that, 68. Yeah, I had just turned 17. And again, I ran this Charles Gales. And Charles, you know, I was like a groupie. Wherever Charles went, in fact, I've been saying I'm going to try to catch up with him. I haven't seen him in years. I hope he would still remember me. I'm sure he would. But wherever Charles went, I was with him, man. I was like a groupie, man. But he taught me a lot about the music, and we also had, we were fortunate to have Charles Mingus was our artist in residence, so he would come in from New York. So Charles and I, we used to pick him up at the airport and everything twice a month. Archie Shep was also our artist in residence. Archie was there pretty much full time. So I got to be exposed to some really great musicians. And, you know, I wish I had taken more advantage of the musical aspects of the work. But again, they really exposed me to just the music itself and to other artists. And sort of the history of the music. That was the other thing I think that was really important, is that I wanted to really go back and listen to these cats like Louis Armstrong. And, you know, of course, I was aware of Louis, but I was familiar with Louis like in the more commercial Louis from, you know, the movies and whatever that movie was in there with Barbra Streisand, not Barbra Streisand, but Hello Dolly and stuff like that. Then I went back and started listening to his, you know, the five, Louis Armstrong 555, and you know, like I say, he was really sort of the basis of improvisation to some extent for jazz. I used to be at the library closed at midnight, so I'd be on campus studying, man, and see I could leave the campus there at midnight, go catch the 12:30, 1 o'clock show at the Revlon. I mean, I used to see, oh man, Bill Evans, Rosalind Roland Kirk, Gene Ammons, Corey Tyner, Woody Shaw. I saw McCoy Tyner with Woody Shaw, Sonny Fortune, and it was pretty good stuff, man. I used to sit behind McCoy. McCoy, you know, they used to call him, he's just so fleet. His hands be so fast, man, on the piano, man. So you can hardly see his hands moving sometimes. And I used to sit there and right behind the piano in a way, like off to the side, so I could see his hands. And I was always amazed at how fast the cat's hands were on the piano, man. Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, those were all sort of like proving grounds. Philadelphia, those were like what they call proving grounds. That was, as a musician, you kind of had to get your act together there and prove yourself in those venues before you could really go and make it in New York. And so Buffalo was like that. So I'm saying you used to see all the cats that would be there. These would be the young guys. Like I said, I saw Woody Shaw when he was first coming out, and he was such a great trumpeter and flugelhorn. Lee Morgan, just all the cats. And I'm saying, we had a number of venues at that time where people could play. And like I said, they used to have them here in Atlanta for a short period of time. Back in the days we were talking about earlier, Miles and these co-train guys, they might go to Village Vanguard or Birdland, and it might be $5. You see co-train band, they might have Monk on the thing, Horace Silver might be on the thing, you see 3 or 4 cats. And so it's definitely changed a lot now in terms of just the whole musical scene. Thank you so much, I appreciate that, man. I enjoyed that. All right, baby, I appreciate you, man. Stay tuned for Night Watch. It's one of the things I think is so important for our music at WRFG is that, especially us as African Americans, this is one of the original art forms in America that we produced. And this is our classical music, if you will. And in order to perpetuate it and continue to support it, we have to support it. And I'm not saying you're supposed to like the music. It may be that. It's not about that, but it's about perpetuating the music. And you're listening to WRFG Atlanta. My name is Paul Williams. This is Expressions. I just said my former program, Expressions. We're going to get that title back at some point in time. We were talking about changing jazz and soothing soul, which is what you're listening to. We were talking about changing that name. And one of my things is jazz. Expressions, the best of all possible worlds. That was a program I used to listen to. Came out of Rochester when I was growing up. They did some great jazz. I can't remember the announcer now, but it was called Jazz Expressions. The best of all possible worlds. And this is kind of what we do. We play some classical jazz, we play some straight ahead stuff, but I like to try to mix things up and to kind of create a mood for it. So I appreciate some of the calls. Obviously, we've been successful this evening. So we're going to be here just for another few minutes up until 12 a.m. Keep it dialed tuned, though. Of course, Night Watch comes your way. And my lady will be doing some great things. She's always doing something interesting. My goodness. Some of the topics she gets into. Needless to say, that was interesting. It's worth the wait. Keep it real so long. Touch that down. Keep it locked right there, David. 93 FM. Night Watch. Of course, we're on 24/7. Keep in mind, again, we are listener supported, so go to our website. We have a new app that you can download. I guess you can go to the Play Store, pull it down. It'll allow you to kind of just touch with a button, tune in to WRFG anytime that you want to. But again, keep in mind, you're our listener supporters, so plan to give us a shout out, tell your friends. How about consider making a donation to support you? Play some hand-picked music, progressive news and information, I can say. This is the place to be.